So, Mantic have obviously taken note of my position in the community as the undisputed #1 Nightstalker content creator, and they've sent me some of these new sprues before release so that I can have a look at them and share my thoughts with the world. So, butchers, it's about damn time that we had a plastic multi-part butcher's kit. The old ones, they've been single pose, so those of us who've not wanted all our butchers to look identical have had to go to great lengths to convert them. And the old material wasn't as great for converting as plastic certainly is. And look at all this spicy goodness. So not only butchers, they can also be made as ravagers, which are a ranged version of butchers. No idea how those are going to work in the rules yet. I haven't seen anything about that online. And over here, we've got the Reapers, which can also be made as Tormentors. The main difference being instead of having hands, they just have a big claw/spike. One thing to note is that the Butchers no longer have furry underpants. They have these kind of stylish aprons now, which on the one hand is a little bit less comical, so you're going to take them a bit more seriously now, but on the other hand, there was a bit of charm to those furry underpants. The Reapers, with my original Reaper unit, that's obviously not plastic, in order to get the different poses for them, I had to put them in hot water to bend them into different positions. So it's going to be nice being able to just build different ones without having to go through all that malarkey. I think the Tormentors also have different heads. It's kind of like a split in half, evil, monstrous head rather than the standard head. I'm going to start assembling these anyway, and then we'll see what I come up with. I'm probably going to build the Ravagers from the Butcher sprue. I already have Butchers, and I'm going to have to buy loads of these anyway because it's the one unit Butchers, the one unit that I wanted to have a lot more of in my army, but I was holding off, waiting to see if they were going to release a plastic kit for them because obviously you don't want multiple units all with the same pose. But that's not all. I'm also going to be putting together this frightful creature. Bum bum bum. Big old chunks of resin. So that's going to need a little bit of a wash, and then shouldn't be too difficult to put that together. So as you can see, we do have confirmation that the furry underpants still exist. They're now relegated to poking out from behind these stylish aprons, but furry underpants are still canon. So here are the assembled miniatures. The Butchers obviously are in far fewer pieces than the Reapers, although I've built them as the Ravagers and the Tormentors. These guys, obviously, quite fiddly, lots of very thin pieces. The one thing to be careful of, I would say, the little foot joints there. I managed to break one of them off during the cleanup process, but since they're plastic, easily cements back on. These guys incredibly quick to put together. And you have more posability with these ones, I would say. You've kind of got the ball and socket joints on the arms, and the heads can be put in different positions as well, and I'm sure the pieces are quite interchangeable on these ones. These, not so much, although, since it's plastic, it'd be easy enough to just smooth down the shoulders and the joint, and you could probably switch the arms around quite easily, which I'll definitely be doing, because I wouldn't want 3 identical poses to these ones with the next batch. Now, let's look at whether Mantic are immune to the scale creep which has plagued the industry, and compare them to the previous models. So, the new ones are definitely a bit chunkier, a bit bigger all round, I would say. Not hugely different, so it's not going to look silly if you have a unit of each in your army. I probably wouldn't mix them together, just because there is that little bit of a height discrepancy. If we look from above to see what kind of footprint they take up now, it's definitely slightly larger, but there was plenty of space on the old bases for the Butchers, so I think you'll still be able to get the right amount on there. So yeah, you could probably fit 3 of these guys onto the base for that number. They might hang over a little bit depending how you've posed them though. Now, it gets a little bit more extreme when we look at these guys. So first of all, some of them are in kind of this crawling position, and the ones that aren't crawling, let's look at one of those so we can get a bit of a size comparison. They've definitely got a little bit bigger. They're closer in size to the old resin ones, which I believe this one here is resin. You can see it's a teensy bit bigger than the rest. So I'd say this one is noticeably bigger than the old ones, but not vastly so. The main difference, though, is the footprint, I would say. So you can see here that I managed to get 8 onto this base from the old models, and on the new box art, they only show 8 of the new models on a base. I'm not sure how they've actually done that. I think that would be quite tricky without a lot of overhang. So here is the base, and if we look at this guy, for example, from above, that is with his foot at the back of the base there. So if you consider that these models, I don't think they are actually supposed to be on 20mm bases anymore, because they're only showing you 8, as far as I can tell, on the picture. So maybe the base sizes are a thing of the past, but if it was supposed to go on a 20mm base, that would be pretty wild. I would say these guys are probably going to be much easier to do as a regiment than as 2 troops, because really you want the back foot to be about there, so the claws and the spikes aren't poking over the front. And if you put one there, of course, you can then find a more upright one that you could stand right behind him like that. So you could fit a lot more of them on if you do a regiment. So even ignoring the fact that you get new options in the boxes to make 2 totally new units, then obviously these are existing units. You're talking about butchers and reapers. So these are just updates on the old sculpts. And I would say they're definitely a sequel rather than a reboot, because they definitely look like their old counterparts, and they wouldn't look out of place, a unit of each in the army, just a teensy bit larger than the old ones. It should also be pointed out that these models are very, very easy to put together based on the sprue instructions as well. You can see each piece was labelled, so as you clip them out, if you just keep them in separate piles, so you've got the A, the B, the C, and so on. So that does make it easy. Now, for a model that is definitely not a sequel or a reboot, this is completely original. There's never been a model that I've been aware of for the Void Lurker before. So Nightstalkers have a few units in their list that haven't had models yet. There's still a few on the waiting list, but the Void Lurker certainly has one now. And what a magnificent creature it is. So it's obviously not just the classic Mantic dragon with a different head on it, which you might have expected. It's several big chunks of resin. With it being resin, of course, the things you're expecting are that the pieces aren't going to fit together as perfectly as if it was plastic. So I'm probably going to green stuff in the odd crevice here and there, but not too much cleanup. The wings, I did actually pin these on, not because I'm worried about them falling off, because with resin, it's much more likely to break at a different point on the miniature rather than the bit that you superglued. If it was going to snap, it would snap somewhere else. The reason they're pinned is because the glue is just taking a long time to dry, and they're quite hefty chunks of resin, these. So it was just to kind of hold them in place while the glue was drying. So there's a look at some other angles. You can see that it's got 6 legs, and it's kind of toppling over this stone tower of some kind. All in all, I'd say I'm suitably impressed with these new units. I'm definitely going to have to get more of these models to make some nice big units of them. And more butchers, of course. That's the one thing I've wanted to add to my army for a while. But I was just holding off, just waiting for the plastics, and here they are. So it remains to be seen whether the alternative units you can make in these boxes are going to be competitive in the rules immediately. But we'll see. I haven't really heard anything about the Ravagers or the Tormentors yet. I assume they're at least going to be viable. Unlike the Spectres, which have completely disappeared, it seems, they've been taken out as an option from the Scarecrow box, and it's now suggested that you can make doppelgangers from those instead. So that's interesting. So keeping my eyes peeled to see exactly what form these new rules are going to take, whether it's a full-on book supplement or maybe just a downloadable army list perhaps. Haven't really heard anything about that. If anyone knows, let me know. So there we are, more Nightstalkers, and maybe this will lead to me being able to field a more competitive army. Who knows? Well, I've started painting them, as you can see. We haven't really got past the base coat stage yet, but looking forward to getting this horrible critter on the table. Not sure about these guys because I haven't really seen any of their rules yet. And this fellow is just going to wait until I get more of them at the official release time, and then I can actually make a full unit. So I've only got 1 sprues worth at the moment, which is 5 models, so I'm going to need a few more than that. These guys obviously can become a unit of 3. I am assuming, because I haven't technically seen their rules yet either, but I assume they'll be the same as the butchers, just with a bit of a ranged attack. So very exciting. If you want to see the finished article, then you should check out my various social media over the next week or two, which is all linked in the description. So, ta-ta for now.